Welcome today to the March 2nd business meeting. And Mr. Krupp, please, let me see, what are we going to have you do?
Taking the roll.
Take a roll.
So I do want to say that we are joined this morning with Mr. Stephen Matcor from County Council Office, and of course Mary Rathke, your clerk to the board. I'll start with a roll. Commissioner Humbers, and I'll introduce the other speaker in a moment. So I saw you looking over there. Okay. Commissioner Humberston.
Present.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Chair Ludlow, Chair Bernard. You know, force of habit. I caught myself.
There went that performance evaluation.
Fortunately, it's not till September.
Here.
I'm channeling John right now.
All right, please join me in a pledge of allegiance. There's no comment. No. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, with that, we have today a present. Oh, I wanted to mention that Commissioner Schrader is at a NACO conference. And with that, Mr. I want to think of something to call you other than Don Krupp. We'll introduce the president.
You could call me by my twin brother's name, David.
What's that?
Everybody does that. So.
Everybody knows that?
Yeah. Okay, so we do have a presentation. It's the presentation of the D. Lewitz Community Commitment Award, and we have the Honorable John Foote, District Attorney, here to present that along with Mr. Bill Stewart. And so I'm going to pass the microphone over to Mr. Foote.
Good morning, Chair Bernard, members of the Commission, and Mr. Krupp. Thank you for inviting us up this morning. I'm going to do a little brief comment about the award and why we created it, where it comes from, and then Bill Stewart is our community prosecutor, and he's going to present the award to our worthy recipient this year, who's waiting anxiously. This award we created in 2015, but it comes from a long heritage of a program we've had up in what we've always called Overland Park, which is a community that was in great need, suffering from lots of poverty and lack of home ownership and kids at risk and a lot of things back in the 1990s. And the idea was to engage the community in organizing itself in things that would not only help with crime, but help with quality of life. And this program has been going on now for over 15 years. And it has a rich engagement with the community, and you're going to see it this morning in this award. D. Lewitz was one of the people that was instrumental in making all that happen. The program is now spread to Oak Lodge and Oak Grove, as you know, with the Neighborhood Livability Project, but it's the same principle. Bill Stewart is our community prosecutor. He has great enthusiasm for this kind of community organization, and it's been a real success story. So what you're going to hear this morning is from someone who's made a lot of community contributions in schools and kids at risk. So with that, I'll give it to Bill.
I want to also introduce Michael Rawls, who's the Director of Social Services for the North Clackamas School District. And I'm going to kind of introduce to you Evan's achievements and the reason why we were presenting this award, but he's also going to place that in context from the district standpoint about her work as well. Evan King has been an outstanding partner for the community prosecution program for the 6 years that I've worked with her. She works at Rao Middle School. And just to give you some background on Rao, there's about 800 students that go there. It feeds into the Milwaukee High School. And so approximately 70% of its students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. I think 19 different languages are spoken in the school. There's high mobility there. 26% of its students have disabilities. The memo that we presented to the board talked about many different things that Evan does, and I just want to pick out one to kind of highlight the impact she's had. It's the Food for Success program that Evan started about 5 years ago. She recognized that hungry students have problems learning and also can be a challenge in the classroom. And the way the schedule worked, oftentimes in the afternoon, you ended up with hungry kids. So she said, we need to figure out a way to get snacks to these kids. So starting 5 years ago, we came up with a program that gets 600 kids snacks every school day. And that's not a cheap thing to do. There's no funding for it from the district or something like that. So Evan went out and crafted a program that involves service clubs, churches, foundations, and for 5+ years, we've now been able to fund this program that helps provide snacks to schools. She didn't stop there. She said, we have to help hungry kids in other ways too. She developed a share table that for breakfast and lunch, where students that have some food can share with those who may not have it. And then she found a way for kids who just didn't happen to have money that day or not a school account that they can actually get a lunch too. That's an example of the type of creativity and program she's developed. And I got to tell you, the work that I do as a community prosecutor is incredibly enriching, and I couldn't do it without great partners. And Evan is a great example of that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Michael Rawls.
So thank you for having me here this morning. I handed out two things that I want to just show you real quick, but my title in a school district, Director of Social Services, is a very unique title. It's not one that school districts normally have, and it's reflective of our district's understanding that if we take care of kids, that we can do a better job of educating them. And taking care of kids is not usually something that school districts look at as their job. They look at other organizations and say that's your job. But we have really gained a better and better understanding of how it actually improves what we can do around education by taking care of kids. So the first page I handed out is just Maslow's hierarchy, and just a reminder. And if you look at this, the 5th level up is cognitive needs, and that's basically, we look at that as school. And Maslow's a psychologist that developed this hierarchy of needs, and his philosophy is that if a student is strong in the needs below it, that they're going to be able to be strong with cognitive needs and be able to be present in the classroom is what it comes down to. And the very bottom talks about basic life needs of air, food, water, and shelter, and those kinds of things. And Evan is a great example of taking care of kids in a high-poverty school, our highest poverty middle school in North Clackamas, and addressing the food and that need. So the next page is our social services model for our school district, which also is very unique. You know, if you look across the nation, there are some districts that are looking at social services, but these are the many different ways that we look at how we help kids so we can do a better job of educating them. And Evan is a great example also of her work of getting partners to the table. And we realize that that we can't do it alone. And not everyone in our district understands that, but the ones that are doing some big work are the ones that do understand to bring partners in, and let's do this together, and together we can really accomplish more to help our kids. So this is our model, and with that, I'd like to just tell you that I'm really happy to be here to support Evan today.
And with your permission, I'd like to have Evan come up now to receive the award.
Bill, move the mic closer to you.
Evan, this is the perpetual plaque of the D. Lewitz Community Commitment Award. Your name has been put underneath D, or our first award, so congratulations.
Thanks, Bill.
There's also an individual award that goes with that for you to take home as well. So, and I know you want to share something with the commissioners.
Thank you for having me here today. It's an honor to be here. And of course, Bill and Michael took most of my speech, so I don't have much to say. I actually, I wonder whether this is a little like the Oscars, like, did you open the right envelope, and am I really the right person to be here at this moment? I want to tell you a story, and it comes from my perspective as a school social worker. There are not a lot of us around, but it's kind of based on what they were saying in terms of it takes a village to raise a child. And this is the story. It starts with James, who's a student, 7th grader at our school, and he used to come and hang out in my office. And I'm a school social worker. I think kids will want to be with me, right? I have all these fun things on my table that they can play with and smell and do, and I keep snacks there. And he'd come every day, and he wanted to talk about the things going on in his family and whatever's happening. And then he wanted to come 2 or 3 times a day, and I'm like, something's up here. And it could be that I'm a wonderful social worker, or it could be he really wants those snacks. And as I started asking him about it and what was going on, it turns out really there wasn't much food at his house. His mom had just kicked out her abusive boyfriend. He was the one who made most of the money. He had a little sister at home. He was actually kind of putting some of those snacks in his pocket to take home to her. And so as a social worker, I talked with the mom and helped her figure out, how to get enough food and have the things that they need. But I thought, well, if James is hungry in the afternoon, as Bill had mentioned, a lot of our kids have 4 hours between when they eat and when they go home, and they're middle schoolers, right? They get hungry. I thought, well, maybe other kids are hungry. So I bought some cheese sticks, and I'm starting to pass out cheese sticks in my office in the afternoon. And then all of a sudden, the whole counseling office is filled with kids. And I'm like, okay. So I went and stood in the hallway, and I'm passing out cheese sticks. It felt a little like trick or treat, right? And then the teacher started getting mad at me because the kids were late to class because they were all in the hallway waiting for their cheese stick in the afternoon. And so we're like, well, we have to figure out something to do with it. And the folks from the Rotary Club had come to us and said, what do you want to do? Heather Hobson, Bill Stewart. And we're like, do you want an after-school club? And we're like, well, after-school clubs are good, but really we want to feed kids. Like, can we figure out a way to do this together? And the folks, I'm going to talk about all my partners. So the Grace Point church folks, they were doing backpack buddies. And they said, do we want backpack buddies? And we're like, well, can we figure out a way to have snacks for the kids in the classroom? Because then the kids wouldn't have to leave the classroom. It'd be embedded. It wouldn't lose instructional time. And so we started raising money all together to try and do this. And it started working well. And then we started doing these other things. And what you didn't say when we were working on the share table is that the county health inspector had to come in to talk with the Chartwells folks to help make it be okay, so that we actually had policies about making sure that those fruits that kids were not eating, and then they got washed by other kids and got distributed again, that there were ways that we could make sure that the food safety was happening for the share table. So I thought that was a really good partnership that we did with that. We found community groups to also start giving us, like, who else would give us food? So Bob's Red Mill, let's ask him. And they said, well, we can give you granola, but really 50-pound bags are the better way to go with that. And we're like, 50-pound bags, cool. Mm-hmm. But the folks at Grace Point said we could bag them into individual servings, put 40 into a paper bag and give them into the classrooms. And then they came down and worked with our kids. So there were these after-school bagging programs. And Costco donated some pretzels, so did Trader Joe's. We're just kind of, where can we get money? What can we get food? Safeway gave us a grant. So we were able to, thanks to Rotary. And then what's the nutritional value of all this? People were starting, Frito-Lay wanted to donate chips, but we can't really have that. So the Clackamas Service Center, Deborah Mason, the nutritionist, came and consulted with us about that. We're raising about $17,000 a year right now to feed kids at our school. Besides the Milwaukee and Clackamas Rotary Clubs, we went to the Milwaukee Neighborhood Associations, so Lake Road, Ardenwald, Linwood, Llewellyn, Historic Milwaukee, Hector Campbell. They've all donated money for us. Thomas Joseph from the Rotary Club put us in touch with the Clackamas Emergency Services Foundation. They've given us money every year. The Clackamas Review did a news story about what we're doing with the Food for Success. And then the Downtown Milwaukee Business Association did a Dining for Dollars one month, where every Tuesday night they gave us a percentage. So amazing things. And a sidebar to that was then when we didn't have enough money to send our kids to outdoor school, the Clackamas Review ran a notice about that, and the folks from the Sam Elkins Memorial Fund came forward and paid for half of our kids to go to outdoor school that year. And it was kind of an offshoot of having done this Food for Success. So we talk at our ROW community collaboration every month about what we're doing, and they said, well, Evan, it's nice that you're feeding these kids during the school year, but what about the summer months? Like, that's 3 months that the kids are home and there's no food for them. And so the Oregon Food Bank, the Grace Point Church, and the Clackamas Service Center got together and started the summer harvest share, where the families could come and get free, and some of you all went there, I think, the last summer. Anna Geller donated her place at the Clackamas Town Center Station, and we used their parking lot to have food for them. It was also a site for the summer food program. And then they started bringing more things. So St. Vincent de Paul and the Rotary Club started providing lunches for the families. So when they came, they not only got the food to take home, they got food there. There was a free book giveaway for the kids from the Clackamas Bookshelf, and the Milwaukee Letting Library. Your Energy Assistance Program from Clackamas County was there. Our Madres de Corazon was working with the Spanish-speaking families, so when they came, they could feel served. And then we noticed that we weren't serving the Russian-speaking families very well. And Oiden Arjanova from the school district talked with us about what to do, and she told us that we got students, Russian-speaking students that could work with those families. And so Anna was able to hire those. So you can see like how all together, James being hungry has led to folks having food all year round and all these groups working together for that. So if this was the Oscars, I would get to do my thank yous. And so I want to thank my fabulous spouse for supporting me and the principal of my school who's given me the freedom to do this kind of work and all of my amazing partners. But mostly, if it takes a village to raise a child, I want to thank you for your service to the community and for you providing a community where people can get together and make sure that each individual student gets what they need and each family can get what they need. So thank you for this amazing award. I want to mention this is our fundraising time for our Food for Success program. So if you as individuals or communities of faith or any other group know of anything, please be in touch with me. And thank you so much for this award.
Wait a second, we have some comments and questions.
Yeah, so I think we may have met, I did principal for a day at RAL here
Yes.
a couple, 3 years ago, and I think I was really touched by, in the morning, before school started, how just the volume of kids having breakfast, really, frankly. And my son went to school there 15 years ago, and I was just shocked by the change in demographics, the rise of poverty in that area. And so I was really touched. I remember going to school hungry myself for economic reasons, frankly. But it was I thank you for that, and also attended the Anna Geller's little group there. What I'm touched by or impressed may not be the right word, because it's a sad situation. But even doing the homeless count a couple weeks ago, food. Really, the thing about food. I expected 10 or 12 people to show up at this particular site, and there was over 50 people. Why? Because there was food. There was lunch. And at Anna's place, where she had that program, lined up people trying to get food. The kids that were eating at Rowell Middle School. I mean, an essential part of learning, an essential part of health, mental health, physical health, and everything. And so I applaud you for your efforts. But I just want to say I've personally saw that, witnessed it, and it was overwhelming for me. And knowing even that the school lunch program is huge. I wasn't there during the lunch hour, but I was there in the morning. I was shocked by, again, how many kids were actually there eating, and knowing that was a good thing. And talking to the principal, being principal for the day at RAL was interesting as well. But it's just a shock that in the 15 years, living in that community for 32, 33 years, the change in demographics in our area. It just speaks to the problem we have. So again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Ken?
Having served on a school board for 12 and a half years myself, as well as having been a teacher myself, I have to tell you that what you have tapped into is absolutely vital. You can't expect kids to learn, and you can't expect them to behave appropriately when they're hungry. And unfortunately, not every family can provide what's needed. So I personally want to thank you for what you're doing. I've seen it on the ground as well as at a board level, and it's critical. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So a couple things that brings tears to my eyes to think of this. I was born and raised on 35th Street, so Rowell
Right
is
up the
just
street.
down the street. And, I was mayor for 8 years, and I don't think that mayors, city councilors have any idea. And hopefully you're communicating with them. Until I got here at the county where we provide public services, I never knew that this stuff was occurring out there. However, I run Milwaukee Farmers Market, Milwaukee Sunday Farmers Market. I'm the president of Celebrate Milwaukee, Inc., and we do take grant applications and have provided money to every year. So, and our priority, because I saw this a long time ago, is feeding the hungry. I mean, if you don't eat on the weekends, it's probably Wednesday before your mind's really working good again. So please apply to Celebrate Milwaukee, Inc., and we have a website. And we give, the other thing is, I've been trying to do this for a while, and maybe you can help or somebody can help. On Sundays when the farmer's market's done, the vendors go home. Some have produce that, I don't know what happens to that produce. Be great if we could work with you or somebody to figure out, can you come and pick up that produce and then give it to the families on Mondays. Or send the families down on Sunday, because, you know, some of these people come from a long distance away and probably throw it away or put it in our dumpster every Sunday. So it'd be great if we knew that. I mean, we could arrange something like that. 70% free and reduced lunch. You know, that area in particular used to be a fairly wealthy area. The neighbors next door used to be one of the highest priced houses in Milwaukee. And 35th Street, I was telling somebody the other day, when I moved in there, 36th Street and beyond was a farm, cattle ranches and stuff like that. So it's changed a lot, and obviously the demographics at Rao Junior High have really changed. But reach out to the city. Reach out, if you haven't done it, reach out to City Council, talk to Mark Gamba, and make sure that he's aware that this is happening. Go to a City Council meeting and do what you talked about today, so that, not that they have money to spare, but at least they'll know, and they'll reach out to us, and reach out to CMI, because one of the city councilors is on our board. Lisa Beatty is on our board, and she could get you a grant application.
That'd be great. Thank you so much for all that advice. And we can work on getting working with the produce. I think the Wichita Center might be able to.
Also the Clackamas Service Center.
John?
One of the, I mean, Evan is a great example of a lot of things, but a lot of good things. But
So they say.
but the larger story is that this community, while struggling, is very interconnected, and this goes way back, and to taking on problems, and seeing government as one of the tools they can use to solve their own problems. I could go into all the things, neighborhood cleanups and stuff. There's a rich fabric here, and you heard part of it in how she talked, but it's a real, I mean, people can't always do something about the income level of a community, but when a community feels connected to each other, it can be pretty powerful. And I understand that the outcomes at Rao are surprisingly strong despite these challenges, because when kids know that people are taking care of them and paying attention, being poor isn't necessarily the end of the story. So it's a story about the community, and you can see some of them here. So they should be very proud of that. So.
I'd like to add just a few more things. I think that's true. I think that the lens of the social worker in the schools, to be able to think about how do we network with the community and make sure that all the resources that are there are being used and seeing it as a strength, the community as a strength. I want to particularly call out Greg Harris, who's the principal of Rao Middle School, who's helped this happen. I also want to mention that Matt Utterback, our superintendent of school, just won Superintendent of the Year an hour ago. So nationwide Superintendent of the Year. So I think a lot of good things are happening in North Clackamas schools, and thank you all for this time together.
I do have one follow-up question, and that is, I forgot to ask, do we have any means or understanding or sense of what the homeless are that are attending school, the homeless children? How many of them are homeless? I know that's a huge growing issue. I know we really can't put our finger on it, but do you have any sense of what that is today?
So, you know, when we're thinking about kids who are living in unstable home situations, is the situation we call it. So a lot of times they're doubled up. You know, they're not necessarily living in a car, although we have had folks who are like living at the church or living in those sorts of places. It is a growing number. We do have a count from the Title X services. Michael Rawls. Do we have a current number?
Yeah, in a year, in our district, it's about 600 students that we work with.
Out of
600 students out of 17,000. I know at Rao at the moment we have about 30 students who are eligible for Title X services.
Okay.
So
Thank you very
it's
much.
significant.
Well, thank you very much. I guess we're going to take a photo. Yes. All right, thanks.
All right, what do you want me to watch?
Now, we can go first, and then all of you guys can come up.
Make sure your entourage gets a picture too.
And happy birthday, Jim.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
2, 1.
Nice. No, she wants all of you. Her homies. Bill, you have to be in there.
Three, two, one, and one, and 3, 2, 1. All right, thanks, everybody.
Nice.
And I get this.
Here's this, let me give you this cover. I've got a box back here.
So exciting.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler, for starting that presentation.
Now, he found his answer.
Well, next up is citizen communication.
Good.
And we have Dan Earnhardt and Grover Jeffrey Brofield. And please give us your name and where you live.
Sure, Mr. Chair. My name's Dan Everhart. I have offices at 1130 Southwest Morrison in Portland, representing Restore Oregon. You should have a letter in your packet, but I'm going to read that letter this morning, if you don't mind.
Got 3 minutes. Better read fast.
I will do my best.
All right.
Restore Oregon strongly encourages Clackamas County and the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District to enter a strategic partnership with the North Clackamas School District. We were pleased to learn that these agencies intend to exchange cash and lands, including the historic Concord School. We would further recommend that the county and NCPRD grant a historic conservation easement on the school to ensure its continued management and preservation. We stand ready to assist you in this endeavor to the extent we are able. Restore Oregon is a statewide historic preservation nonprofit representing thousands of local supporters working to protect and restore the historic places that make our state like no place else. For some time, we have worked to draw attention to the Concord School and the need for a well-considered plan for its ongoing use and maintenance. In 2015, we listed the property as one of our most endangered places. Since that announcement, we have worked with the Concord Partnership, our local allies, to fund the investigation of alternative uses for the former school building and engage the public in vetting those uses. Continued public ownership and use of the Concord School is in the best interest of the building and is critical to the cultural and economic well-being of Oak Lodge. The preservation of open space at the site and indeed the continued preservation of the school building itself have always been paramount considerations in the work of Restore Oregon and the Concord Partnership. The prioritization of these efforts have been led by comments from the Oak Lodge public, which places considerable importance on the preservation of the building and its surrounding grounds. Restore Oregon believes that the most effective tool to realize the long-term preservation of Concord's structure and land is through the granting of a historic conservation easement. A conservation easement is a legally binding agreement to protect a historic property from activities that may harm the property's integrity, including neglect, demolition, and insensitive alterations. It allows the owner of a historic property to retain title and use of a property and at the same time ensure its long-term preservation. An easement is a legal contract by which the owner agrees to maintain the property according to accepted preservation standards. It may also include surrounding property and landscape features. The easement, usually granted in perpetuity, is filed in the county land records and binds the current owner as well as all subsequent owners. The owner retains a major interest in the property and can sell it or convey it to whomever they wish. Because each property is unique, conservation easements are individually written and tailored to each property, defining the precise elements that are to be preserved. Protected features may include the facade, interior, grounds, view sheds, or air rights. Any number of features may be included according to the specifics of the property in question, and, in the case of Concord School, address aspects of the school most important to the Oak Lodge public. Rest assured that the granting of an easement does not prevent thoughtful, sensitive adaptations and uses of the building or even new construction on the site. Restore Oregon does not question the intent of the county or NCPRD to protect and preserve the Concord School following acquisition. However, that intent is subject to the vagaries of time and management. One cannot know how the property will be perceived and managed 10, 50, or 100 years from now. A conservation easement provides clarity and predictability to the management of a historic structure, and we ask that the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District carefully weigh the value of this recommendation. Restore Oregon and its partners and members appreciate your consideration of our comments, would value a response from your office indicating that your agency does indeed intend to enter a strategic partnership with NCSD and grant a conservation easement on the Concord School. We would be happy to meet with you and your staff to better explain our interests and abilities to assist in this process. We look forward to the opportunity to collaborate where possible and are excited by the possibilities promised by the implementation of the partnership. The Concord School and every historic site under the management of Clackamas County deserve your attention and investment of your time. We trust you will agree.
I would have to, let me say something first. I'd have to say that we agree. We want to preserve the structure. The timing is probably the most important part. We first need to do a community process, and that for me is the most important thing. And there's no question in my mind that the community wants to preserve the structure, but there is some desire to do some other structures, and we don't want to create more red tape to get that done until the community's had an opportunity to participate in that discussion. That's my opinion. Paul?
Yep. Well, I share the concerns, and I was hoping, and I think this is maybe something for a work session, but my concern is that the public process, if you will, that the school district, by engaging the Concord Partnership folks to carry that, it's been my hope that we as the Park District consider actually doing that very same thing and continuing that work so we can get a better idea as the new property owner and the recipient of that information, because we have a lot of new people that haven't been privy to that,
Right.
that we can get our arms around really what it is we want to conserve and how we want to conserve it. In a sense, I would say that it's premature because we haven't really, the five of us collectively haven't gleaned that, and nor are we the property owner yet at the time. So I would not, I would not rule out, I would advocate for, frankly, establishing what that looks like and getting to that point and making sure that this property stays in public use, especially that, more so than anything. But I think we need to understand really what that is and actually have greater involvement with us as the board of the Park District, who will be the owner at some time in the near future. So, but I do want to see, I would frankly would like to see that role of that Concord partnership continue, but not be, so to speak, well, I just want to say interfere, but I don't want the Park District Board, Advisory Board, or the Park District itself to have a path independent or not recognizing or not a strong connection with the partnership. I want to see the partnership have a strong role and not have it just be the DAB. But somehow we need to talk about that as a board of the district.
That's actually a good point, because the Parks District is considering the formation of their own district, own governing body. And the future of their decision-making may be different than ours. So we have to be careful that, you know, we want to preserve this. I don't necessarily think that, I think ownership, but public use could be a public-private partnership use. All that stuff kind of has to be worked out. We just didn't want this to interfere with the process of transferring ownership, but it's something of interest in the future. And the Parks District would concern me that, you know, the Board of County Commission has to have a say in the future of this building, but the easement's a good way to protect it.
And we will continue to engage in the public process as deliberations about use, et cetera, will play out. We'll be sure to be there too.
Right?
If I just add one thing, I think that the recent discussion about the governance model changing gives me some more apprehension, because I know it gives others apprehension that there's no opportunity, that they feel more secure with the county retaining that until there is something. So I think there's a lot to be considered between now and then.
Thank you.
Great. Alden?
Hi, I'm Grover Jeffrey Bornefeld, and I am a resident of Jennings Lodge on Boardman, and I'm also a taxpayer, and I've been a taxpayer for the last 26 years, and I'm here to appreciate the focus and the direction of this strategic partnership. I think it is a great opportunity to keep the funds that taxpayers have invested in the schools, the original Oatfield or Thiessen grant for the property, as well as the money we've put in for the last 26 years into the North Clackamas Parks and Rec Department, because we've been identified as being the most, in our current comprehensive plan, it says that we are significantly lacking parks, open space in the north urban area, should be given special emphasis, particularly in the Oak Lodge neighborhood. So this is perfect. I really want to thank you all. I want to thank people for this. I so agree with the comments just moments ago about the importance of public input. So once the partnership makes the swap, assuming that goes forward, I want to have significant outreach, not just this little group or that little group. No, I want the community to be involved. It's one of those things where it supports the decentralization of the North Clackamas Parks capital investment. It has not been widely distributed, but it also provides an opportunity to, in this swap, that Happy Valley schools are going to get what they need for their growing population. So, and it'll still be sports fields available. So it's a win-win all the way around. The only other thing I want to speak to is how we do move forward with that. And I've heard several things that you all mentioned that I hadn't heard before. So I just want to make sure that we have opportunity to have many groups come together for the outreach and the input, because you know, as we know, the opportunity to finally put some investment into our community comes up now. So thank you.
Great. Ken?
I will be brief, but I'm committed to seeing that this property remain in public hands for public uses. And I'm speaking for myself personally on that. I also would comment that I have seen too many times in the past, as I shared with Baldwin earlier, where a public asset such as this becomes no longer useful to the owner, the current owner, and it gets sold off at pennies on the dollar. And then 10 years later, they go, oh, we could have used that for something. And I don't want to see us, either as a county commission or the Parks District or anything else, make that mistake. It should remain in public hands, and I think there's plenty of public uses for it, and I am, like my colleagues, committed to making sure there's a good public outreach on that process. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So next is Baldwin. Last pool. Thank you for coming today, both of you.
Good morning, board members. I am Baldwin Vanderbilt. I live on F Road in the Oak Grove area. I'm the chair of the Oak Grove Community Council, which is the local community planning organization. The 2008 population count for Oak Grove CPO was almost 23,000. We have 11 meetings per year, and at each meeting we have approximately 40 to 60, sometimes even 70 people attend. I'm also the chair of the Oak Lodge Community Library Advocates, whose mission it is to keep the Oak Lodge Library in Oak Lodge community. Both groups are very pleased with the proposed property exchange that will allow the Concord School building and the grounds to be preserved. We appreciate the work that you've done with the North Clackamas School District. Thank you for your time and effort that the board and the county staff has put into this proposal.
Thank you. Les?
Good morning, Commissioners. Les Poole,
formerly of Oak Grove. I just need to clarify something. Our county administrator, the best of my understanding, has a double, and that's how he's able to get his job done. I'm not sure which one's here today.
That is true. I do have an identical twin brother.
That's great.
You don't live here, though.
I don't think my brother could handle being my twin. I have went to Salem and visited with some the legislators during the week. And one thing I did is I made a point to stop by Alan Olson's office. And Alan is sponsoring the bill that will increase the exemption for 40% or greater disabled vets. Ken Humbersome testified on it. I don't know if you went on behalf of the county, but I want to certainly thank you for that. And never think that a citizen can't change things or bring something forward. As someone that's done it, I just think back how this started, and it started with Mac Woods, frustrated. Mac can be rough around the edges, but I know Mac, he's got a heart of gold, and I know when I needed some help, he was there for me. So that whole idea of let's offer some improved help for our vets, tangible, so they can get a credit against ever-rising property taxes. And I just hope that bill, I think it's SB 694, I hope it moves forward.
It is.
And of course, these things cost money. I'd love to see the Concord School preserved. I'd love to see a 50% tax credit for these vets. But every credit and everything we do costs money. In Salem, of course, there's a lot of scramble because, frankly, Measure 97 was resoundingly defeated, and there's a lot of scrambling over money. There's talk of a budget shortfall, and you hear different opinions on that, of course. There's a difference between being broke. There's a difference between having a projected budget shortfall and what the numbers finally are. So we're hearing a lot of things down there, and I hope the county stays engaged. Please do everything you can to keep us informed about what you're doing down there. The transportation issue, something that's always been near and dear to me, is certainly going to receive a lot of attention. And 205, we know we've got to do something there. Damascus, even though it's disincorporated, the traffic problems aren't going to go away. When you look at how many intersections there are in the rural part of the county where the growth is occurring, you look at the roads, you look at the infrastructure, and obviously we're real short there. So your work's cut out for you, and again, I want to thank the county for participating in that effort, and thank good old persistent Mac Woods. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thelma?
Can I sit back down?
Thank you, Les.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Bernard and Commissioners. My name is Thelma Hagenmiller. I am a resident of Oak Grove in the unincorporated area of Clackamas County. I am here today to address the upcoming strategic partnership between North Clackamas Parks and Rec District and the North Clackamas School District. I am speaking in favor of the agreement being entered into, but with a couple of concerns that have been shared with me. The first concern is from the owners of the East Side Athletic Club. They had heard rumors that one of the uses of the Concord School building might be as an athletic facility. There is rumors of 2 other athletic facilities coming into the area, so they have a rightful concern and have expressed concern about a nonprofit facility also being established. I told them that I had not heard of Concord being used in that manner, and that would be on the, I would be on the lookout for any future such discussion. The second concern was from a general one from the owner of the apartments directly across the street from the Concord property. I assured him that there would be lots of opportunity for public input into the use process as this agreement moves forward. I would also like to publicly announce to your TV audience up there that the topic of the CIA Citizens Informed and Aware meeting on March 8th at 7 p.m. at Rose Villa in the Performing Arts Center will be a discussion of the future of the Concord Community Complex, as we are currently calling it. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say that I hadn't heard that rumor at all. I heard a rumor that, there was some interest in a baseball field there, and I immediately said, well, that would be a community decision as far as I'm concerned. We have baseball facilities. I don't think it's appropriate place for a baseball facility. It takes up too much room. But that's something the community will have an opportunity to give us input. As far as a nonprofit, I understand there's a nonprofit school that might be interested in that. My concern, number one, was what are we going to do with the library? If that would work, something the community can decide. But I think it's a great opportunity, not only, I think the library issue itself was a great opportunity to get the community together. I'm almost thrilled that they have such a cruddy library that we have an opportunity to fix it and do something great. And the community can participate in that discussion. What a great opportunity. But no, I hadn't heard the private, I assume private sports facility. That won't happen. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just for the information of the folks who've come in here today to talk about the Concord School project, we do have scheduled on the agenda next week as a discussion item, consideration of approval of the strategic purchase and sale agreement. And so I just want to make sure folks are aware of that. And as a discussion item, folks will be able to speak in the agenda to the subject.
So maybe we'll do one of those raise your hand if you support it thing.
Right. Well, and that's why we scheduled the CIA meeting the night before your meeting that day, so we can bring concerns of people that couldn't necessarily come to your meeting next week.
Well, I'll try to go to that meeting too.
I suggested a couple weeks ago when this came before us in a work session that we consider continuing a handoff, if you will, to ensure that the Concord partnership continues and in that capacity. And as I'm gleaning from things that I've heard in the community, and Thelma, thank you for bringing this to my attention, and all the other things I've been hearing, I think it'd be something I wanted to raise maybe at a work session on Tuesday or under issues, Chair, that we actually formally try to make an effort to acknowledge that and sponsor that very thing, that we actually don't just talk about that handoff, that we commit to that handoff to ensure that public process continues with the Concord partnership. So when there is the change of ownership, and from now and in between, that their work continues and that there'll be a lead on that. Now, I don't want to circumvent the DAB, but I think it's appropriate maybe to express that we want to do that. So I'll try to raise that for an issue and discussion on Tuesday. So maybe that will give it some better guidance and some more support when we act on it on Tuesday or Thursday.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is consent agenda.
Okay, the consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of a professional, technical, and consultant agreement with Alfred Soto, MD, to serve as medical director for the Behavioral Health Division. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Lake Oswego Police Department for crisis assessment and diversion services. Approval of a sub-recipient agreement number 1 with the Friends of the Canby Adult Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents. approval of an intergovernmental sub-recipient agreement amendment number 1 with the City of Gladstone, Gladstone Senior Center, to provide social services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. Approval of amendment number 1 to the intergovernmental sub-recipient agreement with the City of Wilsonville, Wilsonville Community Center, to provide social services for Clackamas County residents. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes. Under disaster management, approval of a memorandum of agreement with the Oregon Trail School District for emergency disaster-related use of school district facilities. Under our development agency, approval of an agreement with PNV Restaurants for the Clackamas Regional Center Property Enhancement Program. And under Water Environment Services, approval of amendment number 2 to an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County Service District number 1 and Metro for the Rock Creek Confluent Restoration Natural Area Bond Measure Capital Grant Award. And approval of a grant agreement between Clackamas County Service District number 1 and Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board for the Mount Scott Creek Oak Bluff Restoration Project. And that concludes today's consent agenda.
Thank you. Do commissioners want to remove or pull any item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much. Next is County Administrator updates.
Thank you, Mr.
Wheeler?
Chair. I do have a couple of items.
You're not going to let that go, are you, Jim?
Oh, just today.
Better Wheeler than Mante.
So I'm curious, that earlier comment, was that a birthday present?
Yeah.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Mayor Ludlow.
Okay. Last week I had made mention that we were going to have a repair fair in West Lynn, and we did. We co-hosted a repair fair last weekend in West Lynn, and it was a rousing success. The event was supported by our Resource Conservation and Solid Waste program. That is our Sustainability and Resource Conservation and Solid Waste program. Saw community volunteers fix broken items for free. This was their third fair, and with Robinwood Station that they have held, and it's the first one actually that the county formally joined in on. But we had the highest turnout ever. We had some 60 items repaired in the event that took place last weekend. So I wanted to take a moment to thank the volunteers and the people from Robinwood Station, and also make mention that the next repair fair will take place in Milwaukee on March the 18th, and then on May 6th we'll have one in Gladstone. Then I wanted to let you know that our Water Environment Services Department is partnering with the Johnson Creek Watershed Council and others over this weekend. We're putting together the largest watershed restoration event of the year. It's called Watershed Wide, and the event takes place this Saturday in 10 locations throughout the greater Portland area, including Happy Valley and other areas in Clackamas County. We're happy to be a part of that effort. Volunteers will be working together to help build healthier watersheds by planting native trees, adding mulch, and removing invasive species. Then finally, I wanted to let you know that we are opening up the application period for what I believe is the third year of our Clackamas County 2017 Citizen Academy. And the Academy is a 6-month-long series of classes where we invite residents to learn about county government and the services that we provide. And it's been a great success so far. Participation often stimulates the participants to get interested in maybe joining one of our advisory boards and commissions and continue to serve county government in that fashion. And certainly if you know anybody who would like to participate in this, and it is free, you can point them to, and I'll say it's bit.ly/Clack County Academy. And so, or they can check out on the website and get that information. Is that up on the screen then? Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Is this once a month or every day for 6 months? You know.
I believe it varies a little bit, but, and I can't tell you the frequency, but it's at least once a month that folks will get together for that.
Great. Hopefully they, you know, talk to, at the Citizen Academy, talk to people about hunger, you know, in Clackamas County and homelessness. I don't know if they do. I mean, when I went to North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce Leadership Program is how I found out what Clackamas County does. I think we need to do a much better job communicating to citizens about what we do, and I assume they do that, but issues such as hunger and homelessness or houselessness. Right?
Yeah, that's good to hear, because we are still developing the program for this year's academy, and those are good thoughts to include.
Yeah, and you know, it might be fun. I think other commissioners have in the past gone to those. Commissioner Savas, who could talk about houselessness, and Sonia Fisher could talk about what she's doing, and we'd all be happy to help out.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you. That's it.
With that, we're on to Commissioner Communication. Commissioner Savas, you're up first.
Yeah, I'll try to be careful and respectful about what I say today, but I just want to reflect on the last few days here. Thursday night in particular, Tuesday morning in particular. And my affinity to the folks at Stafford that showed up there, my connection with them is that they were solicited by the county as well as the Oak Grove Jennings Lodge unincorporated area of Clackamas County around the same period of time for really a little bit different purposes, but we engaged both simultaneously almost and solicited for really a community vision and values process where we established or asked what our aspirations are because of concerns about urban rural reserves for the Stafford folks, and in the McLaughlin area about the impacts of moving a light rail facility to our neighborhood. And I was at the meetings back in 2009 when the commissioners tasked us with that, and when the commissioners made that decision. And long story short, I became chair of that neighborhood group, now known as MAP, or MAP 1. And after a year and a half, 2 years of work and hundreds of hours of community, we came to something that rarely happens in a community that large, but a unanimous support. I'm going to say that again, unanimous support in a very diverse, with a group of very diverse opinions and visions about their community, and valuing our neighborhood, the fabric of our neighborhood, and who we are. And in 2010, when I was running for commissioner, I, visited the folks in the Stafford area and heard what they were doing, and realized, hey, we're really on the same path here. And so those assurances that were brought about by the commission back then, I'm expecting that they're relatively active and valid. We have signaled to them and signaled to and I say them, I'm talking about Borland Stafford folks and also the McLaughlin folks, that certain things would transpire and certain things would be honored and respected. And that effort mattered, and we would actually follow through with that. And there's some very fundamental things that we have said, and I say we in the Stafford area, but personally, the we in the McLaughlin area, that we would pursue programs that would assure that the neighborhoods, the vitality of the neighborhoods, the neighborhood character and those properties and the vision and their zoning, their neighborhood would be protected. And in the Stafford area, a little bit different, they wanted a certain compromise, if you will, of how their neighborhood and community would look like. And that's to me, that's a real, that's not just words here. That's a commission that, as the commission has changed, continually went with that program and endorsed it and said at a number of events that we'll work with you. And I think where we are today, or as a result of the election, It's not about what we're doing maybe or why we're doing what we're doing as far as it relates to the urban rural reserves. I understand that we need closure on that issue. But I think the problem here is the how we're doing this. And the how I don't think has really been rolled out in the right way. We should have been engaging everyone and say, here's where we want to go, and here's the timeline we want to do it, and here's how we're going to involve you. But instead, it's come off as, we're going to do this, and here's the timeline, and we'll talk to you later. And the later turned out to be Thursday night, and the later is today at the Metro Building, and the later will be April sometime before the Board of County Commissioners when it happens. And I don't think that's really consistent with what we all understood, whether it's folks concerned about the map area or whether it's folks concerned about the Stafford area of the future. It's about a commitment that this commission, previous commissions, made to those communities. And I will fight as hard as I can to make sure that commitment's honored. I'm done.
Okay. Next, Sonia.
So it's been another busy week of learning lots of things, since I am getting an excellent education with what our county does. A couple highlights on that front. I met with our finance department, and I talked with the different managers of all the different aspects of how we do our budgeting and how we follow the money. And I was really surprised, and I'm going to have when I have my weekly meeting with our administrator, Don Krupp. Just wasn't going to call you Steve Wheeler. I don't know how we do all that we do with the staff that we have. And just a visual, when I worked for Multnomah County so many years ago, I mean, it was 20 years ago, and I did the planning part of the services for social services and not the contract writing, but I would walk to the other floor to talk to the folks that were writing all the contracts, and there were so many people there. So I am really surprised at that our finance department does so much of the work. And with the move towards centralizing, which will create uniformity, I thought that was a real positive. And quite frankly, I was very impressed with how we do things here in Clackamas County. So that was very welcoming. One of the, probably the most engaging and enlightening experiences for the week was spending the evening with Chair Bernard at the Leaders for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council. We were there, and the members of the council, we were talking about what's happening at the federal level, the policies around immigration reform, and how that feels for folks at the local level. People are scared. People are, some kids aren't even going to school in our communities. There are people that are afraid to answer the door. There's a concern that when ICE from the immigration, I'm not even sure what ICE stands for, Immigration, Customs Enforcement, come to the door, they don't identify themselves as ICE, but they're identifying themselves as police. So there's an effort to educate communities from our folks that are on the ground here in Clackamas County to ask, what law enforcement agency are you from? And and then they have to respond, which one. There are little red cards, and I wish I had one with me because it's actually in my car right now, but there are little red cards that are being distributed across our communities so that people know what their rights are, that they don't have to let people enter their homes and they don't have to answer questions. There's a lot of fear out there, and that hearing the stories and talking to the folks that are very connected, there's a lot of concern there. So I was very grateful that we have in Clackamas County the Leaders for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council, where we can have a very safe conversation about these very, very important issues. Some other things that we did this week. Commissioner Humberston and I had a briefing with the juvenile department. We do some amazingly innovative things in Clackamas County, which really help our youth. And I don't know if that gets recognized enough. There's probably not enough news articles that talk about how well kids are doing and having a pathway through the difficult challenges that they face. We also had a tour of Parrot Creek, which is, it's not very far from here. It only takes about 15 minutes to drive there. But you go out Leland Road and you drive quite a ways, and it's so beautiful. And I kept saying to Commissioner, where are we? It's like, where are we? What? Because it felt like miles and miles and almost a lifetime away from where we are here. Beautiful place. The setting is beautiful. The buildings, however, are not. And we had a lot of discussions. I understand that Clackamas County owns the land, and I believe we own the facilities. Is that correct? And we will be doing some deferred maintenance there. It was really shocking, actually, for me. We haven't had really a chance to debrief, but it was pretty concerning how dilapidated the actual structures are. But the work that's there, the staff is committed. They have some pretty good success stories to share, and it was heartening to hear that the program's been around for 40 years, so people that have gone through it, and they connect back with the community and say, hey, just so you know, my life's doing good, I'm working, I've got a family. Those stories are pretty great that we're able to make that kind of difference for kids in our community. So that's what I've got. Oh, the dog. Yes, okay. So we got the dog up. Okay, this is Timmy, a laid-back 10-year-old gentleman who has an easy-to-care-for coat. No fussy cuts or fancy brushing for him. Timmy is and I'm going to ask Commissioner Humberson to help me with this, a Jack Russell Terrier
And Dachshund.
mix who would love to sit by you, but not on you. He may be a lap-sized dog, but that's not his thing. He likes gentle attention and good food. A daily stroll through the neighborhood will fill his exercise needs. Come see him today, and he'll have his smile on.
Very cute. Ken?
Thank you. It's been a busy week, as you can imagine, and we have attended a number of community meetings, Oak Grove being foremost in my mind as far as really having an opportunity to listen to what the community had to say about the MAP project and what they would like to see in their area. And I wanted to thank Commissioner Savas, who wasn't expecting to speak that evening, but he happened to be in the audience, and I asked him to take some of the time and answer some questions in a little more depth because of his experience and the fact that he actually lives in the neighborhood. So I appreciate his comments very much. We also did attend the Stafford meeting, and we will be going there again, and I think the next focus will be much more on direct communication between the board members and the community. I happen to agree that we need to do more of that. But we are trying to solve a problem in the only avenue that we have available to us at this time and accomplish as much of what the community would like to accomplish as is possible. I'm a pragmatist. I recognize sometimes that the ideal that we might like to achieve is not always possible, but usually much of what we would like to achieve is possible if we look for the right avenues. So I'm hoping that this will go forward, resolve the issue for the county as a whole, as well as for the community in at least an adequately satisfactory manner. I had the privilege, as Les Poole pointed out, the other day of testifying on behalf of disabled veterans and surviving spouses on Senate Bill 694. It will increase the available deduction for property taxes for our disabled veterans. As I pointed out, as a veteran myself, this is not something I will be able to take advantage of. I'm one of the fortunate ones who was never injured, don't have any service-related problems whatsoever. Somebody might argue that I have other problems, but that's not one of them. They need the help. It hasn't been significantly increased in a very long time. I appreciate the support of the board in sending me there. And Les, I hope you will tell Mac Woods that I told him I would help out on this issue and that this whole board helped out on this issue when sending me there. So let Mac know that, would you? Thank you. As we all know, at the state level, finances is a critical issue right now. We don't know what's going to come to us from the state, whether we will remain whole at least, or whether we'll see cuts. Revenues are critical. I have shared a revenue method with the state legislature and with the chair of the Senate Finance Committee on one way we might be able to increase revenues at the state level, and hopefully they are investigating that method. And finally, I had the opportunity, as did Commissioner Fisher, to meet with Senator Merkley's staff, and I was able to have a discussion about my personal pet project, Krause Laminated Timber, and let them know how important it would be for us to be able to do sustainable harvesting in our local forests and provide a reliable source of lumber for this process, how much it would employ people, and that we're not asking the federal government for a single dime. We're asking for the opportunity to be self-reliant and to make sure that the people in our rural communities have an opportunity in the rural communities to make a living. So hopefully this project will go forward. We are forming a task force of staff and other agencies to try to resolve the access issue, and fingers crossed that we'll be able to accomplish this goal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just a little bit about the reserves in Stafford. You know, I thought, first off, not everyone knew what was involved in the process of looking at urban-rural reserves. So shortly after I got here in 2009, we started the discussion. There was at one point that and there were thousands of people involved in this discussion. We reached a point where, with a unanimous vote, we supported the urban-rural reserves. That ended up in court. LUBA, cities opposed it, private property owners opposed it, and we came to a certain point where we're working with Metro, thanks to some ideas Ken had about an IGA, which will address many of the concerns of not only the citizens of Stafford, but the city people. I had an opportunity to talk to one of the mayors, and he said he liked it, and he would support it, and he'd be talking to the other mayors about that. So thank you, Ken, for working on that, and thank you for your work with Metro to come up with the words that people seem to appreciate. But there's something that happens when you start a project. It has to end. There is a timeline. At one point, you reach it, and you make the final decision, and you hope everyone's behind it. One thing I was listening to on NPR this morning is that where the United States is going now is that we're not moving anymore. We're staying put. Diversity is reducing. The poorer folks live with the poor people, or the black people live with the black people, or Asian people. It's more and more, that's where society's going. And in Stafford in particular, my concern was 5-acre lots where you tell me how many poor people are going to be able to live on a 5-acre lot and build a home. Tell me, how many? None, not a one. And so rich people would live with rich people on the rich, big pieces of property, and that's unfair when we have a housing shortage. You know, diversity is what makes a country great. And without diversity, the country fades away. At one point, the speaker said, people will decide, well, let's move on. Let's start looking at the future, not the past, and move on. But that's important. That's important. And, you know, I went to a meeting the other day, and I have been thinking about this issue for a long time, mostly since November, when there was an election, and some requests on citizens to become, you know, to tag ourselves as whatever that might be. And at the meeting the other night, I think Richard Swift said something really important that really got to me, and something that I've been concerned about. He said that silence is the moral equivalent of consent. And so if we sit up here and never say anything, we are consenting to what's being said. When I sit at the 7-Eleven and I have a couple of Mexicans, I don't know if they're citizens or not, and I'm wondering, how are you feeling about what's going on? What's it like to walk in your shoes? I have no idea. I'm a white guy who was raised in a white community where immigration was of no concern in Milwaukee at the time, or it probably may not be now. But, so I want to make, we had a request, and I think it's important to make a couple of statements. I'm here today to say that the county cares, and we want our citizens to know that we care, and we are a safe place to live. All people are welcome to live, work, and enjoy a healthy life in Clackamas County. Acts of harassment, intimidation in Clackamas County are not acceptable. Everyone is entitled to live in safe, healthy, and welcoming communities. Confidential information regarding citizens will not be shared with anyone. And I had an opportunity to speak to the sheriff, and we are not holding people in jail for ICE holds. And I thought that red card that was passed out the other night was very valuable. I gave mine away to somebody, which basically says, you know, if you knock at the door, slip this under the door so that they can read it. And it says, I know my constitutional rights. If you want to come in my house, you better bring a warrant, is basically what it says. And so Clackamas County is a safe place to live. And you know, we have our problems, but I want people to know that not only in Clackamas County as an employee, you should feel safe, but in Clackamas County, you should feel safe. And I'm committed to that. So with that, thank you all for coming today, and see you next week. Thank you. We're adjourned. I should hit that.